your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan. And this boy is on my hot plate. He's on my hot seat, man, with me for the past couple of years. But he has this horrible, horrible habit, in my opinion, that he rides the hot hand. And I mean, I can't see how Christian McCaffrey is going to sustain what he's been doing.
And he hasn't even sustained it so far. Like right now, he's averaging 3 yards a carry. Where in the beginning of the year, he was averaging like over five.
Yeah. And
Um,
Jordan Mason is averaging 5.2 yards a carry right now.
I know, I know. It makes no sense. The excuses that I've heard for them not playing Jordan Mason is that he's not super familiar with the pass production and that he struggles a lot with knowing the play calls. But to me, that also goes back on Kyle Shanahan because
Yep.
Jordan Mason has been in the system for 2 years. If he doesn't know something and he's such a good runner, like, isn't it worth the time to sit down with him and make sure that he knows the plays or to simplify your plays for when he's in? Like, you would think that
100%.
if you have such a good player that you would make it work no matter what. You know, if you have a star and they can't read, you'd be like, you would change everything and be like, okay, if I say blue, this is what it means. Like, simplify it for him if you're telling us that he's, not intelligent enough to remember, which I don't even know if that's true. Like, maybe he just needs extra help and a coach should sit down and do that. But yeah, and you would think that that would help Christian McCaffrey be more effective too if they were not only because it would be allowing him to rest more, but if other teams had to be more fearful of Jordan Mason, then that could take some attention away from Christian McCaffrey and like help split up those resources. Where instead, right now, when Christian McCaffrey gets the ball, you have like five guys immediately on him because they're not
Yep.
even worried about anyone else. Because in my opinion, Kyle Shanahan has really lacked offensive creativity recently. I feel like his game plan has
100%.
been like hand the ball to Christian McCaffrey, throw the ball behind the line to Christian McCaffrey. And I'm like, there are other players on the team, and maybe that worked last year, but right now it's not. And Christian McCaffrey is clearly dealing. I think he still has his oblique injury. So yeah, I don't know
Well,
if I answered your question directly, but
no,
I
no,
agree that
100%. That's
he
great.
needs to split it up a little bit more.
And you notice too, these defensive coordinators are picking up on this like there's no tomorrow. They're not even they're giving soft coverage on all of our receivers. Brandon Ayuk, I don't believe that you can cover him one on one. One on one,
Yeah,
you
did you
can't.
see? I don't know if you have Twitter, but there was like a chart going around with like yards of separation, and Brandon Ayuk is like way leading the league by a lot.
Yeah,
He's
there's.
gets extremely open.
I think my only other thing I can think of why they're not exploring that with him with as much as he's open is there's just not enough time, or Kyle Shanahan has his heart set on let's get in the ball to CMC or Debo. CMC or Debo. Everybody knows, like you said to your point, Christian's on the field. They're going man coverage. Everybody eyes on Christian McCaffrey because 99% of the time that's where the ball's going when he's on the field. And back to Jordan Mason, if he can't understand the playbook, what is so hard about putting him on? We don't need him to come out of the backfield and catch a ball. We have receivers for that, right? We have Christian
Yeah,
McCaffrey for that, right? We need someone that is going to wear down a defensive line and linebackers and make them play honest football. And then when they start stacking the box, then your receivers are opened up and you pick them apart. It's real simple. Jordan, hand the ball to the left side. Jordan Mason, hit the A gap, B gap, and just go for it because that's what he does. But for them to use as excuse, is he doesn't know the playbook. I agree with you 100%. I'm going to have to say that falls on Kyle Shanahan and those running back coaches. They should know 2 years in the system. He should know it. He should be ready to play it. And he's a running back. I don't believe it can be that complicated. If he's not that great of a blocker and pass protection, don't use him on those plays. It's very simple. But I
yeah,
also feel like Kyle Shanahan is kind of more one-sided towards Elijah Mitchell for whatever reason. He keeps wanting to get that guy back on the field. When he's healthy, he's great. But my opinion, Elijah Mitchell is he's a momentum player. Uh,
yeah.
Got to get the flow going of the game. He's not gonna get his momentum going on 2 or 3 carries every quarter. Per quarter, 2 or 3 carries
Yeah, he
spread
needs
out, not
lots
even
of
back to back.
yeah,
And
he
and
needs lots of production in order to start showing up. And also I feel bad because he did perform so well his rookie year, but I do feel like injuries have kind of taken a step from him. He's always been little, but he's always been able to be very physical. And now when he runs, I do feel like I don't know if hesitant is the right word, but he's just not like as dominant of a force, which to
he
be
doesn't.
honest has been a problem for the whole entire 49er team this year, but I've just noticed it a lot with Elijah Mitchell because I felt like for being so small, he kind of always brought the heat, and now he's, uh, you know, getting
He's
2 yards and
he's
getting taken to
I
the
know
ground.
why Kyle likes him. I mean, he's fast, and when he gets in the open field, he can definitely cover some yards. But to me, the last
He's
few
also
times I've
not
seen,
fumbled. I think that
yeah,
that's why Chris, which
and the
which is
last few,
interesting because
what
Kyle Shanahan doesn't seem to care that Christian McCaffrey is fumbled, but
exactly, but he still keeps giving him the ball. You
favorites,
know?
favorites.
So
I, to be fair, I understand. You know what I mean? You got different standards depending on how much you care about someone.
yeah, that's true to the facts. But that when I look at that and I start seeing stuff like that, it's like, man, these guys are never like Jordan Mason's never gonna gain knowledge of the playbook and the knowledge of the scheme of the offense if he's not out there interacting with with the ones. If he's constantly interacting with the twos, possibly threes when Elijah Mitchell's available, it's
Yeah.
understandable why he
Why
might
would
be
they
a
not
little.
switch those two, in my opinion? Because they've done a couple like two back where they've had Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell in the game. I'm wondering if because if other teams know that Jordan Mason isn't gonna be able to like understand the pass protection, maybe they automatically would assume that he's gonna get the ball. But that's where like Kyle, be a little bit creative, come up with like a few very special play calls that you can make sure that Jordan Mason knows by the end of the week. Practice them all week long so you know that he knows what he's doing and kind of take defenses off their feet a little bit. Like, shouldn't be that hard. I'm not saying rewrite your whole playbook,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be hard to like add 3 plays in. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, but it's just like when we get to 2 and 4, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, bring Jordan Mason in, give him second, give him third down, let him pound that ball.
Yeah.
You know,
And like it
first.
shouldn't matter if the other team knows that he's going to run the ball because we've seen him late game situations where the 49ers have a lead and so the other team knows that all they're going to try to do is run the clock out and he was still averaging like 5 yards a carry even in those situations.
Yep.
So like if their excuse is like, "Oh, well when he's in, they know that, he's just automatically going to hit the ball." It's like, "Okay, well that hasn't stopped him from like producing." So like if your mindset with Christian McCaffrey is like use it until it doesn't work, why don't you also have that with Jordan Mason?
Well, the thing of it is, they're trying to do a Super Bowl run, right? Everybody says it's Super Bowl now, bust or whatever. But it's like, if you don't get to January with your hands down, probably the best player on the team as far as, what he brings to the team, Christian McCaffrey, if he's not healthy in there, then and Jordan
Yeah.
Mason don't know the playbook. Elijah
Yeah,
Mitchell
then
is,
you're really gonna be screwed, right? Like you might as
oh,
well like
100%. Like there's no winning that. And not only that, but you know, what's your thoughts on it? Because I really believe to get to the Super Bowl, one, we're going to have to go through Philly. And
yeah.
then if we get through Philly, two, we're going to have to beat Kansas City, I believe, because I think Kansas City is going to go this year again. But I don't see how our offensive line can stack up with Philly's defensive line. I'm starting to get a little PTSD as far as I'm feeling like that same scenario is going to come again. Not necessarily saying that they're going to hurt Brock, but that they're just going to
But just
completely
yeah,
dominate us in the trenches.
dominate the trenches. Yeah. I I agree. I feel like I was nervous about that even when the 49ers were on their winning streak, just because Philadelphia really knows how to dominate in the most important area of the field. I was assuming when the offense looked more dominant that maybe Kyle Shanahan had come up with some like creativity where he didn't only have to. Who was it? I was just listening to something, and I think they quoted Bill Walsh, where they said, if you only know how to win one way, you don't know how to win." And I think the 49ers kind of have relied on physicality and like being the most physical team, which is great. But then what happens when you run into a team that's more physical? You have to be able to then be able to win with creativity or with scheme. And it's like, yeah, it's pretty disappointing that it feels like maybe a guy who really helped with that was Mike McDaniel, and now he's on the Dolphins.
Yep.
So
Shout out to Mr. Lowell Cone. He was the one that said that. Lowell Cone, when him and Grant were
yeah,
having their
there you
their
go.
chat yesterday. Those are my guys right there. I love them guys.
Yeah,
But
I always love that show.
yeah, they're I have a I don't know how well we're gonna do in the trenches. I mean, we got a few weeks coming ahead of us that are really gonna tell us exactly where we stand. We got to play the Ravens. That's gonna
This
be a
kind of
rough one.
goes this kind of goes with the thing we're talking about, but let's answer Rick's question. He says, "Who cares about the Eagles? We got to stop worrying. We got to worry about winning games." I feel like the reason that we're talking about the Eagles is because the 49ers are going to have to play the Eagles in order to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. And when we're talking about number one seed, the Eagles currently holding that means that the 49ers won't get a bye week. So that's why we're discussing the Eagles. Is like that's when we're talking about NFC, I'm less nervous about the Rams and the Cardinals than I am the Eagles, or even when it comes to the Cowboys, I believe that the 49ers have the type of offense that goes well against the Cowboys defense, and Kyle Shanahan has kind of showed that he's been able to out scheme Dan Quinn. Where on the other hand, if we talk about the Eagles right now, the Eagles look like the much more physically dominant team, and that's an area of weakness for the 49ers. So that's the only reason we were bringing that up, Rick.
Yeah, and same thing, Rick. I, your point's valid. We're Niner fans. We don't want to talk about other teams, but my opinion is you got to game plan to beat the team that's going to stop you from getting to the big game, and that's the team we need to be game planning for, my friend. That's all, buddy. I'll stop.